In this video, we're going to cover the transition results record and the process of adding, submitting, deleting, and unlocking a transition results record, and then also the associated transition results to do. So a transition results record is a child record of the NFT record. So it's controlled by the same permissions, the NF transition agent fields and NF transition state field permissions. Also, the transition results record is a record that has to be submitted to the state once it's completed. So you'll also need the send to state /save CTA /submit notice permission. So if you don't have access to either of those, you'll need to just contact whoever manages the user accounts at your agency and request access to those two permissions. So to add a transition results record, you simply highlight the transition results node and click add. And then you'll be prompted to enter the date of transition. The date of transition is required and it needs to be the date that the participant actually physically transitioned. And it also needs to be on or after the initial interview date because you obviously can't transition before you have the first initial interview. So I'm going to just say that that is today, just to make it easy. So I'm just typing that in. I could also use the calendar control button. And then I'm going to click add. So now that I have successfully added a transition results record, you'll see that the add button was grayed out. This is because you can only add one transition results record per NFT record. If the user ends up going back into the nursing home and needs to transition again later on, that's fine, but an entirely new NFT record should be created in that scenario. You won't ever add a second transition results record and keep using the same NFT record. So there'll only be one per record. And every time a participant actually transitions out of the nursing facility, you'll need to add this type of record so that you can record where the participant plans to go and what type of community-based services or housing supplements that they might need after transition. Every time a transition results record is added, a related to-do will be added. So if I open up the to-do items list in the case file, I'll be able to see the new send transition to state to-do. So this is an agent completed to-do. To complete this to-do, you'll need to actually send the transition results record to the state, just like the description says. You can't just complete it with the complete checkbox. It's grayed out. So it'll be cleared by the actual action of sending it. And when you do that, this to-do will be deleted and considered done. So the due date and reminder date both default to the day that you add the transition results record, with the due date at 5 p.m. and the reminder date at 8 a.m. But you can update that if you want to, but it just automatically does that so that it kind of pushes it to the top of your to-do list. So I'm going to leave it as is. Another rule about adding the transition results record is that the transition results record must follow a complete notice and eligibility record. So I don't mean complete in the sense that it's been done and submitted. I mean complete in the sense that the state actually reviewed it as complete. So if the notice and eligibility that is right before a transition results record is denied, then the system will not allow you to add a transition results record. So transition results records need to be on or after a complete notice and eligibility. And you do not want to use the submit date. You need to be using the linked CTA date, the date that the meeting actually occurred. So that's at the top of the notice and eligibility record in case you get confused. Okay, so back to the transition results. One last other kind of odd rule about adding transition results is that if a closed notice record is added prior to adding the transition results record, you're going to need to change the close reason to no selection before you can add the transition results record. This is just because close reasons change depending on if the participant has transitioned or not. So if a closed notice record is already added, then you'll need to just make sure that the closed reason is set to no selection, so that when you add a transition results record, you don't accidentally delete data unknowingly in the closed record. And if a closed notice record is already added and sent to the state, then you will not be able to add a transition result record, because sending the closed notice to the state signifies that the NFTE record is closed and your relationship with the participant has ended. So adding a transition result after the entire NFTE record is closed is not allowed. So let's go over actually sending the record. So to see what is required to send the record to the state, you can use the missing button. You can answer these questions by either just scrolling through the review missing tool by using the next, and answering each of the questions that way. Or you can use the actual UI and just answer the questions by, going through, oh, that's where they transition to. Here's my emergency contact. And then kind of going through that way. And then if there are any missing, you can just use the missing button at the end and kind of spot check and make sure that you have everything that's required. So this first group of questions is the HCBS services that might be arranged after transition that you're planning on. So you can use the set all to no button because that's kind of easier to, since there's so many of them, and then you could mark the ones that actually apply to your participant and change it like that. Or you could go through and answer each question if you like that better. These memo boxes have these add today buttons. That'll just add the user's user ID and the date of today, so that if you were making a comment, that it's appended with your signature basically and the date. So I can do the same thing with the housing supplements, and then I could mark the ones that my participant might actually need. And there's the same with these comment boxes and the agent comment, the other comment box, that they have these same add today buttons that I can choose to use if I was making comments about the transition. So that is the transition results record. You can see that I've answered all the required fields, so my missing thing is grayed out. So now I should be able to send the transition results to the state. Once I do this, I will be locked out of the record, so you want to make sure that you're completely done and you didn't want to make any other changes. And once you're completely satisfied, you can send this to the state, and then the state does not do a formal review process of this, but it will stay locked for agent users and it'll be unlocked for state users. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So if I click this, you'll see my to-do is now cleared because I actually sent the transition results to the state. So now that guy is gone, and then the system also had updated me with a success message letting me know that my transition results record was sent. And then now there's a lock icon next to the node denoting that the whole record is now read-only and locked from editing since I am an agent user. If I logged in as a state user, all these fields would actually be unlocked and able to be edited. So the state can change things. If you did make a mistake, you could just ask them to fix it, or you could ask them to unlock the record. So there are certain circumstances where an agent user might need to edit the record or document a situation after the fact and after you've already submitted it. So in those cases, you can just contact the state and ask them to unlock the record for you, and then they'll document why they're doing that here. And then they'll also uncheck this checkbox. And by unchecking that checkbox, it'll lock them back out of the record and give you guys permission to edit again. And so when that happens, the to-do will also come back and it'll say send transition results to state again, just so that you remember that you need to resubmit after you make any changes. And once you've done that, the date resubmitted and resubmitted by fields will also be filled in. If you end up doing this process several times, the resubmit date and by will just keep overriding itself, but the original submitted by and date will stay there forever. So the last thing to go over is just that you can delete the transition results prior to sending them to the state. You would just highlight the record and then click the delete button and then confirm delete. But since I've now sent it, you can see the delete button is grayed out. So agent users that need the transition results record deleted will just need to contact the state and explain why you need it deleted, and then they'll be able to take care of that for you. And that is the transition results record.